Hey guys, so as I promised yesterday, I got in the beehives today and I got a little bit of footage, but I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to get footage in a beehive when you don't have a tripod or you just can't get that certain angle, or when you're really far away. I mean, if you're a beekeeper and you're on this channel, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I do have a little bit of footage for you, and I got in a nook, I got in a new swarm from this year, and honestly, I think I just kind of touched base on a few of my hives that really just needed a little attention. The rest, I left them alone today. It was a little too windy, and I didn't want to get in any more than I really needed to. Nice brood. Okay, so this is a frame that we put in here. It had a swarm cell on it. I don't know if you can see that there at the bottom. You see one is chewed out. It was chewed out first, as if she had emerged. There's one next to it that has not been chewed out, but she has probably gone in and stung that, and that's why I'm not going to use that for another hive. Let me look at this. And so what I'm doing now is I'm looking to see if maybe I can see her. I don't expect to see eggs from her yet. We have had a lot of rain, so for her to go on her mating flight, okay, here we go. Here's what I want to show you, and I'm going to pick you up to do it. Okay, you see there how that cell is chewed out? We should have a queen in here. They're over here cleaning all these up. So what I'm looking for now is a young virgin queen. Okay, here's the thing. I know there's a queen in this box. I can tell by their demeanor. I can see that a swarm cell was chewed out. There are eggs in here, but they are on the frames of brood that we had already put in. I don't see fresh eggs yet. And normally I wouldn't dig, but we do have about 4 or 5 days of heavy rain coming. Waiting on that truck. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and dig, and I'm gonna try to find her. found her. Okay, so since I found her and she looks good, I'm gonna button them back up. I could tell she was there by the way they were acting, but sometimes you just like to see them too. Okay, on April 24th, we had a swarm in this box right here. That swarm is in that far right box right there. Then we had another one hit right there. Let me show you what we got going on in this hive. We gave these girls, am I walking around there? We gave these girls all blank Rite-Cell frames. You can see that they have filled them up very nicely. So we are 20 days that they've had this box, and they've done pretty nice. So now I'm going to try to get in them here. Do you see this frame? All the honey. Whoops. They got capped honey all around. They got brood, capped. Every single frame is like this. And because the queen has no more space to lay, she has an egg in every single one of those cells. pollen, nectar, capped honey, eggs, brood, all ages. Because of that, let me show you something. So because they're about to run out of room, you see these swarm cells down here at the bottom? See them in there feeding them? Look at this pattern. Honey, nectar, pollen, brood. A nice rainbow. We got somebody carrying in some pollen there now. If I flip it over, you can see here, they've got 3 more swarm cells. Do you see how they look? And I don't know if you're going to be able to see in there or not, but there is an egg, or larva, I guess I should say. Look at all these swarm cells. They're basically saying it's time. So as good as these girls look, I mean, right now, typically, I will go ahead and add a second deep box. But I think actually what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna add a super because they are making swarm cells. She's an excellent queen, great layer. They're a good calm hive. I don't see beetles in here. I'm not seeing any mites on them. I have no reason for concern with her, and she would be a good stock. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a super on them, let them start working that out, let them go ahead and complete those swarm cells. I'll come back in here in another 4 or 5 days once the weather is right for me, and I'm gonna take those swarm cells from them. So they won't actually leave, but I'll be able to use those queens for other hives that may need it. And we can strengthen them with her stock.
So we all know that every beekeeper pretty much does their beekeeping different from another one. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And you know what? I think that that's perfect. And the reason why is because not every bee's the same. They all have a mind of their own. They all do what they want to do. And we are just trying to keep up. So today, as kind of an introduction to our way of beekeeping, for the beaks out there, I thought I would just tell you guys what we do. So first of all, we use 10 frame boxes. So all of our frames, we use plastic foundation. This is the black Rite-Cell. The reason why we use this is because it has worked amazing for new swarms, for any splits that we might do. They're just able to really draw it out. It smells like wax, it feels like wax, it is wax. But the biggest reason that we like the black is because when we go to hold up a frame and look inside, a white egg, which is a lot of times what you're looking for, a white egg will literally pop out of there. So when I hold this up to the sun, I can immediately see a white egg or a white larva. It's a lot easier for me to look. For our supers, standard yellow. Works, we're not looking for eggs. They like it, we like it. Why change something if you don't need to? Okay, so I was talking about the 10 frame boxes, which then defaults to a 5 frame nook. So here's where I'm gonna become really unpopular really quick. I like my bees to swarm. I don't like making splits. I feel like in our experience with our bees, we have found that our swarms are just stronger in general. I mean, it makes sense because a swarm, you're gonna get the bees for the wax production. You're gonna get the bees with the honey production. You're gonna get all the different bees that they need in order to come out. Plus, you get the old queen and she's gonna immediately start laying. For instance, the hive that I got in today is only 20 days old. It was a swarm that had landed on the box right next to it, and we just haven't moved it yet. Shame on us because it is still on the ground. But it is a swarm. It's on the ground with a screen bottom board. We do have the plastic in between. But she had to start laying. They had to draw out all the comb, and they're doing amazing. They're doing absolutely amazing. They have filled out all of those frames within the 20 days, and they are creating swarm cells because they're ready to go. Now, in the video, you'll see that I add a super. Typically, we would add a second deep. But the thing about it is I look at this hive and I see an extremely calm hive. I see a great wax producing hive. I saw a lot of nectar, a lot of capped honey. In a 20-day time frame, that tells me that that queen is amazingly good. That's what I want in my bees. So instead of putting a second deep on like I would normally do, today I decided to put a super on. Let them go ahead and start building out the wax on the supers and continue to make those swarm cells and complete them. I'll get back in that hive in another week and I will take those swarm cells out and I will either reuse those queen cells in another hive that may need it, or I might just make a split.
But that way I can get the maximum out of that swarm. I don't expect to get honey from a swarm in the first year anyway, but I have a lot in the past. Another reason that I like to let our bees swarm is because it's not that often that we actually lose them. I think last year we can remember one that we lost. This year we had a couple queens come out and land in the very top of the pine trees, which is the entire backdrop for all of our hives at our first apiary. They swarmed all the way to the top. There was no way we were gonna get them. And you can go back and watch that video that we already have posted where my husband and a friend shot a tree limb out of the tree and dropped the bees. They ended up landing on a trunk that we could easily access. Queen was okay. That hive is doing amazing. But we were lucky. I'm not gonna lie, we were lucky. We had another swarm and I went Facebook Live and I tried to catch this swarm. Easy deal, easy thing. Done it 100 times at this point, right? Should have cut the limb, but it was a pear tree and I didn't want to lose production on my pear tree. I fumbled the box, I lost them. So this year, I've lost one in the the pear tree, because they knew exactly where they were going. As soon as I got them in the air, they took off across the field. Nowhere for me to find them. And then we lost one up at the top of the pines because those multiple queens split the bees. And believe it or not, from May 4th, 10 days ago, that hive is still up in the pine trees. Those bees are just going to create their home right there. There's no way we can get to them. And they haven't left. We've had wind, we've had cold, we've had rain. They're just going to do what they're going to do. So maybe we didn't want that hive anyway. They don't seem very smart to me. But the other ones, they've all done very well. Now, I have heard where it might also have a brood break. I don't know about that. That is a theory. That sounds good. I don't know if it's proven. But honestly, that's not why I like them to swarm anyway. You know, we do want a lot of honey production because honestly, 400 pounds of honey, we've already sold it. We cannot keep enough honey in stock at this point. Our community has been wonderful to us and we want to be able to keep providing honey. And that's why we're trying to build our hives. But I don't want to build my hives that have to fight for their life. I find that the more times we make splits, which is what most of our nooks are now, with the exception of a few small swarms, they just struggle. They start off with honey, they start off with drawn out comb, they have plenty of bees in there. All they're waiting on is a queen. But for some reason, for us, splits just are not as productive as swarms. So for that reason, I like swarms better. So here's another thing that we don't do. And honestly, we haven't had to. We don't treat our bees. We inspect our hives often. In fact, I love getting in the bees so much that I have to remind myself that the less is better. But honestly, we don't have mite problems and we don't have beetle problems. I do remember last year we did have some beetles come in, but we were able to get control on them. Good old Swiffers. So outside of that, adding Swiffers, we don't treat them. We don't use the acid. We watch them. We've never had the European or American foul brood. We might see a mite here or there, but we don't have the ankle biters. So I don't know what else it would be other than just having a good stock of bees. We don't usually purchase bees, but we have. Last year, I believe we purchased 6 nooks in order to build up our hives. All 6 of them did not survive, but some of them did. That gave us a good diversity because obviously we want to diversify our stock. But we also do that with the swarms. So anytime we get a call for a swarm and we bring it home, that's changing things up too. So I'm really not that worried. I don't buy queens from online or from other places. Our hives provide enough for us because again, we don't cut all their swarm cells out. And if I see a supersedure, if I see a supersedure cell, I'm gonna first assess what that queen is like. I'm gonna look at her laying. I'm gonna look at everything I can. And if I can find her, I will look at her. Is her wing damaged? All those things. And if I feel like she's ample for the hive, then I will take a supersedure out. But it's more likely that I will let them replace a queen if they want to. They're smarter than me. They have their own language. So why would I go against it if I didn't have a good reason? So my husband and I, we're two people, two different ideas. And one of the things that we go back and forth on quite a bit and disagree with, but give and take, is feeding our bees. I know that there are times it is necessary that they get food. I believe that food should be honey. That's what they eat in their hive. I feel like that's what we should give back to them. But he also thinks that sugar water is fine. I'm not big on sugar. I got a sugar problem. That's why we sell honey and maple syrup, because I have a sugar addiction. And that's the most natural type of sugar I can find. So I don't want to give them something that I don't even want to take in myself. And I know there's so much scientific stuff about how it's processed and how it doesn't really affect them like we think it does. But then there is the other side that says it does. And to be honest, unless they absolutely have to have feed at all, we don't like to do that. Now this year we did try Pro Health and we did make our own winter patties. We put it on there. We had some beetles come in. Not all of them ate it. I don't know. I don't really notice a big difference if it worked or not. But we've had a unique year. It's been a beautiful year. Last spring, it was so rainy and wet, they would have probably needed it. This year, they don't. The forage is amazing right now. And it has been since the maple leaves have bloomed or budded. So we haven't quite come to a decision yet or to an agreement on the best way to feed our bees outside of anything that we can do naturally, like planting wildflower mixes. My yard is full of flowers, diverse flowers. We have all different kinds of things from one season to the next. In our other apiary, which is an open field, we have all the wildflowers. It's full of maple trees. We plant sunflowers in there. We plant, an acre of a bee or a pollinator bee seed. A pollinator seed. And we get ours from Eden Brothers. And you know what? I would rather feed our bees that way if we can. But again, I'm not Mother Nature and I don't get to dictate how these things are going to grow. I can just put it out there. That's all I can do. The same thing for the bees. If they absolutely have to have it, okay, maybe. But I'm not gonna add feed to a nook just because they're young. And I'm not gonna add feed to a swarm just because it rains for a day or so. We have never had a problem with any of our bees by not doing so. Maybe we're harsh parents. Maybe we're harsh beekeepers. And I hope not. But our bees seem happy. We've got a hive or two that might be a little bit aggressive, but I think it's just the queen because there's nothing that could indicate otherwise. And I'll tell you what, I will never keep a queen from that hive. I will never. She is an amazing producer. They protect their hive, they clean their hive, they keep it wonderfully kept. But she's mean. And I just don't want to have another hive like her. They're miserable to be around. So she can do her thing. I will let her do her thing. And then they can re-queen her if they want to. I know I could put another queen in there, but I'm not going to mess with it. That is what it is. I just know before I get in that hive to make sure I'm zipped up real good. Bee suits. You will not see me in a beehive without a bee suit. I can get stung and I'll be okay. I'm not allergic to them. But I don't like it. If I don't have to be stung, I don't want to be stung. I'm not asking for it. It is
it is inevitable you're gonna get in a hive and maybe you'll squish one, or maybe one will get caught somewhere on your body. And I am constantly standing up, squatting down, standing up, squatting down. I'm moving way too much that it's too easy for one to get in the crease of my elbow or behind my knee. I mean, I got stung on the leg the other day because I'm down on the ground just watching them in the front door. Thing is, that bee suit takes me a couple extra minutes, and I so appreciate those of you that get stung and get in there without your bee suits on, but that's not me. I'm gonna wear my bee suit. We don't sell our wax. I use it. I make lip gloss, I make candles. We will reuse it in our hives if we need to paint some more wax onto some of our frames to just kind of build them out a little bit. Honestly, we don't take that much. One of my favorite tools is this little thing. Who would have thought? It was probably just one of those trendy things, but I really like it. It's super helpful. And besides this, a bread knife. These are my wax decappers. And it's gonna take a lot of arm strength this year because we have well over 50 hives at this point, and that's more than we've ever had. And that's gonna be a lot of wax to take off. But it really isn't that much wax because all we're doing is taking that top off. We don't usually do cut comb. We have a couple of them out there just by special request. And we never take the entire thing off and let it drain out. We have done that in our first year of extracting honey, but we haven't done it since. It's just too much work for the bees. So we just decap it like most beekeepers, and we give it back to them as an empty frame, and we move on. I don't use clips to catch my queen. I don't like them. They're awkward to me. I don't like them. I use the curlers. I use the curlers to catch a queen. I use the curlers to cage a swarm cell or a queen cell. You can get them super cheap. They work for me. That's all I need. So we don't have the clips. We don't sell our bees. Right now, we are in the middle of trying to build our hives, and we've had a lot of people ask if we will sell them. And to be honest with you, that will be something that we will do in the future. But right now, we just can't. We have a goal in mind. We're halfway there, and we want to keep building. I mean, this year we said we wanted to get to 50 hives, and right now we're about 54. So we've met this year's goal. Next year, we hope to be at 100 hives. And I know that we could probably get to 100 this year, but remember, we also need that honey production because our community has really taken to it, and we do want to be able to provide a good natural source of honey. Okay, so the bottom line is we're all different. The bees are different, the beekeepers are different, and we're all just trying to figure out the best way to keep a hive healthy and productive. And for us, this seems to be working so far. A year from now, I might look back on this video and say, what were you thinking? But I always want to try to do things as natural as I possibly can. And if it's working, then I don't want to change it. So while it may not be the most common thing to let your bees swarm and to not feed them in what some might think is a necessity or a necessary time, we've been doing pretty good with it. Our bees overwinter very well. We don't usually put added protection. We overwinter in 2 deeps. Last year we did overwinter in a couple singles. I think that we'd prefer the 2 deeps, but we just had to do it last year to find out. So tell me, do you think I'm crazy? Are we that far out there? Or do you do the same thing? I would love to hear from my beekeepers on here what your thoughts are. Until tomorrow, guys.